Well, hello and welcome back to another Flutter tutorial, and today we continue building our quiz app, which is a true or false quiz app. So we left off here, so click on play and that takes us to the screen. So we ended up building this UI page, and today we are going to focus on getting the logic to work. Now, to get the logic to work, we are going to implement one aspect of that, which is OOP, object-oriented programming, and I plan to do a separate video on that. But then as we continue, just bear with me, everything will come together. So one of the first things we want to do is to figure out a way of getting our questions in here. Now, we could just create a list and then get the questions out of there, but that's going to be a mess. So with the help of object-oriented programming, we are going to see how that is really going to come to play. So the first thing I want us to do is we are going to create a new file, and this is going to be called question.dart. So essentially what we are going to do here is create a class, and basically a class is just a blueprint or a template that tells you how something should be made. So for example, let me go ahead and quickly do this as I explained. So we are going to create a class, and we are going to call this class question. Okay, now this question class is going to define or let us know anytime we want to create a question that we want to pass in here, what that question should look like. So we know we have blueprints for houses, blueprints for cars and things like that. Those blueprints define how this car should be made, what it should have, and what the car can do. So in the same idea, this class called question is going to tell us what each question should have. Okay, so first we know our question is going to be made up of a string. So we're going to say string, and we are going to call it question. You can call it Q or something, but I'm going to go with question. Okay, so I'm defining some properties in here, and I'm going to, so the question would have a question and have an answer. So for us to be able to create a question, we need to make sure that that question has a question and an answer. I know the question might be confusing, but this question is going to hold something like is a dog a human being? Okay, that will be the question. I don't know why that question came out. So that will be the question, and then what is the answer to that question? So that is what we are going to do. And we know for something like a true or false, that data type is a boolean, and that we are going to call as the answer. Okay, so basically all that we are saying that anytime we are creating a question, we need to provide the question string and then the answer that goes with that question. Now the other thing we have to do is to set up the constructor. Now again, don't worry about all of these terminologies, but basically just like the name constructor, this is the guy that is going to go ahead and construct this class for us anytime we need it. Okay, so a constructor always bears the same name as the class name. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and do this, and inside here, now in that you can have named constructors or unnamed constructors. So if you remember our tutorial on functions, I showed something like that where you can use the curly braces and then you specify. Okay, so I'm going to do that, and to create this question class, I'm going to say that anytime this question class is created, we require you to provide us this question. Okay, I know I'm simplifying this, and it is also required that you provide this answer. Okay, the answer that we have on top there. I hope I'm spelling things right. So this is what everything looks like. So each time we need to get a question in here, we need to provide a question string that would be like, is a dog a human being? And then the answer here would tell us whether that question's answer is a true or false. And that is how we are going to rig this up. Okay, I hope I made that simple enough. Like I said, I'll prepare a different tutorial for this so that you can understand what is going on. Object-oriented programming can be something if not taken care of. Okay, so now that we have this question class created, our next task is we're going to go ahead and create these questions that are going to sort of help us go through this quiz. So what I want us to do here is we are going to go back to our lib folder here, okay, and then we are going to create a new file, and we are going to call this the quiz underscore controller .dart. So just like the name, this guy is going to be in charge of controlling everything, okay, about this quiz. But before that, let me actually show you how this is going to work. So if we go back to the quiz page, you notice how we just have quiz question here, okay? So what we can do is, if I go to the top here and just create a list, and this list is going to be having a type of question. So remember, we have a list that can be holding just string types and those kind of things. So we're also saying that this list is just going to hold question objects, okay? And I'm going to call these probably just question, okay, something like this. And we are going to open up our curly braces. Now I need to import this, so let's import in question, and then of course we close this. Now if I come in here, what I need to do is provide a question. So I'm going to say question, okay? So see, this question I have typed here is what? The constructor right here. This is what I have just called. And you can see how it shows us question and answer, because we said each time we call on the constructor to create this question for us, then we need to provide the question and the answer. So this question is a string. So for example, we can say, I'm a fan of single quotes. We can say, let me use what I said. So is a dog a human, for example? And the answer here obviously is false. So remember, it's a boolean, so true or false, okay, something like that. And then what I can do here is I can copy this, or you know what, I can use this handy trick I showed you the other time, and then I can say is a human, pardon me for my stupid questions, a dog, and this is also false, for example. Okay, so we would be doing something like this, and then how are we going to use this here? So this is a list, and we've touched on lists and how we can access them. So if I come to the text here and I do, so I get rid of this quiz question, and I say that if I wanted the question from here, so this is a list and this is the first item, okay, makes sense. So all I'll do is I would call on question, so the list, okay, and then in the square bracket I need to provide something, okay, I need to provide whether it's the first or the second, so the index. So note that at index 0, okay, that is the first question. So question is the list name, and this is the first question, so index 0, index 1, and so on. So at index 0, and now if I put in the dot operator, you can see I can retrieve the question. So I can either get the question, which is this, or the answer. Right now, what I want is the question. And of course, it's a string, so that's very simple. So if I go ahead and then let's save this, you can see we get it's a dog, a human. Okay, and of course, where would I use the answer? The answer will be used in the button presses. Okay, so the elevated button unpressed, what do I want to do? That's where I want to check the question answer. You get it? So, but I wouldn't be doing that for now. Just wanted to show you how we're actually going to, if I can find it. Where did I just put this? Okay, right here. Now you also notice that this value here is hard coded. Okay, so that means if I want to go to the next question, I have to change this to 1, and then I have to save this, and then we get the next question. But we have to do this incrementally or programmatically, so that when I click on a button, automatically it should go to the next question. So cases like that, we would have to create a variable. So what we can do is we can say int and then say question number, for example, is equal to 0. Okay, just like that. And then what we can do here is, instead of using this value I just typed in, I can use the question number instead. And you know, question number starts from what? 0. So definitely it's going to access the first question. So back to is a dog a human? Now assuming what do you call it? I'm going to answer it. So the answer is false. Either way, wherever I put this, it doesn't really matter. So since I am here, I'm just going to put this just to show you. Okay, forget about the answer being true or not. So inside here, what I want to do is to call set state and then say that. So if I should click on true, provide in case I'm trying to answer this, and so I need to increment that value. So I would say the question number plus plus, and this is just a shorthand of saying add 1 to question number. So if I save this now and I click on true, notice how it takes us to the next question, which is right inside here. Okay, but imagine I had 100 questions. It's going to be a mess putting everything inside here on this single file. So this is the beauty of object-oriented programming. It helps you separate things into their own files so that you can pick them as and when you need them. So this is the idea we are going to go with. Okay, so what I'm actually even going to do is I'm going to grab this, I'm going to cut it. So, and then what I'll do next is to go to the quiz controller. Okay, and of course this is also going to be a class. So let's go ahead and create this class, and then we are going to call this quiz controller. Oops, come on. And then inside here, I'm going to go ahead and then paste this in there. Okay, now it's going to complain because it doesn't really know what question is. So let's go ahead and import that library. Okay, now I'm not going to use these questions. Okay, I have some questions I've prepared, so I'm just going to copy paste them in. So I'll provide these questions in the link so that you can download them. So these are the questions. So I'm going to grab everything in here and then just paste them inside our quiz controller if I can find it. Alright, so I hope this is visible. So these are the questions. They are just questions I just googled to find some questions and their answers. So basically it's not just about how accurate and fun the questions are, but the idea is to just get some questions we can work with. Alright, so these are the questions that we have, and these are what we are going to work with. So if I go back to the quiz page, I don't have these questions anymore. So how then do I get access to these questions? So this is where I'm going to introduce you to the concept where we are going to instantiate the class. Okay, we are going to instantiate this question controller, and then when we do that, we create something called an object, which is basically going to have all of these functionalities. Everything we put here, that object is going to have it. So think about having like a blueprint for a house. Okay, you don't go and use that exact blueprint, but you make an object which is the house from that blueprint. So we are going to create an object of this class that is going to help us access all of these things. Okay, this might seem like a lot, but you would soon understand how everything works. So once we have this done, we can go back to the quiz page and then see how we can initialize that class or instantiate that class. So it's pretty simple. All we have to do is to create an instance by calling that class name, or in this case we can also say it's a type, and we know that is going to be quiz controller. So just like this. Now you have this to give this a name. So mostly you'll find people just repeating the same name as the class, just like that. But the thing is, this is a pretty long name and I don't want to be typing quiz controller or something, so I'm going to shorten this to just QC for quiz controller, and this is going to be assigned to the quiz class, the quiz controller class, sorry, just like this. Okay, now this here, okay, is also a constructor. Now let me just put this in there, though I said I'll talk about these things later. Now if you have a class and you don't provide a constructor like we did in the question class, okay, there's always a default constructor that's created that is empty. It doesn't have anything in it, and that is how come we're able to do this. Okay, now this is an object of the quiz controller class, and this object has all of these properties that are inside here. So what do I mean by that? Let's go back to this place. Of course it doesn't know what this is, so let me actually clear this, and now we know that our questions reside in this quiz controller. Now we can just go ahead and use this quiz controller directly, and that is why we have QC, which is going to help us do that, the object of that class. So the object of that class has everything that we have in that class. So for example, if I say QC and I use the dot operator, you notice how we can access the question list, so list of questions. So that is this is what we are getting access to, and now if we can have access to it, that means we can have access to these things. So let me actually close this. So dot question, and then again bring in my square bracket because question is a list. Then what can I do? I can put back my question number like so, and then I can access the question. Okay, so if I go ahead save this, I didn't mean to do all of that. Okay, now if you put this in the first time, you might want to rebuild the entire app. Okay, and then when I hit play, you can see it has the first question, so we can go there and you can see the big apple is a nickname given to blah blah blah, so you can see that is in there. Now because we already rigged up this variable here to be incrementing, when we press this button, if I click on this, you see it is going to loop through the questions. So you can see friend star Lisa blah blah blah, and that's somewhere here. Okay, so you can see if you keep going, we can keep going just like that. Okay, so that's the idea. So now we are able to pick the questions from what do you call it, the quiz controller class. Okay, now there are a lot of things we would have to fix because one, we do have this variable right here sitting in this, and we want to try as much as possible to isolate everything from this page. Okay, so eventually I'm going to move this out of this page, and it is also going to reside inside here. Okay, so I'm going to end this video here. In our next tutorial, we're going to continue working on getting everything to bind. So if you like this video, please leave a thumbs up, and of course if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.